So in the conversion kit for the Apex 2 Rally, it does come with threaded shock bodies, and they come dry, so you need to fill them up with some oil. I'm going to show you how to do that. What I like to do is get a paper towel, get my parts on there. Now these do come pre-assembled with the shock pack in the bottom, but I am going to recommend taking that apart and applying some green slime. Get yourself a nice set of shock pliers. These factory team ones are awesome. Allows you to grab that shaft without marring it all up. You're going to want to pull this bottom cap off, and you'll see the red O-ring in the bottom there. We're going to gently pull the shock shaft out, and that's already installed with a piston in there, held on with some E-clips. And then you want to gently pop out. There's going to be one O-ring, then a spacer. You just want to gently pull that out. And then another O-ring. Does feel like they come with a little bit of oil, but green slime is the pro tip for keeping these from leaking. So what I like to do is just take my driver, drop that O-ring in there, get a nice little flip in there, a nice coating. Don't worry if you got too much on there, because we're going to wipe some of it off. A little bit on the spacer. Plop the other one in there, get that coated. Roll it around a little bit. And you're basically going to build that pack right on the end of your wrench there. I like to rub it in, get it nice and coated. And you gently want to reinsert that in the bottom of the shock and kind of work it down inside. And then gently just make sure you press it down. Make sure everything's seated in there. Wipe off the excess green slime. And I'll thread that bottom on there just enough to keep it from falling off. Take it all the way in and then back it off half a turn. And then we're going to put a little bit of green slime on this, the threaded end. That just kind of helps ease it back through that shock pack we just built. So you don't want to nice and straight. You don't want to do it crooked because you can damage the O-ring. Once that's back installed, I'll completely tighten this bottom cap just like that. Grab your shock pliers again. Get the eyelet back on there. Be very careful not to cross thread it. You almost want to turn it back a quarter turn until you feel it sit in there, and go ahead and tighten her up. And I'm just going to take that right to the end of the threads, and we're going to set all 4 shocks the same way. So to speed the process up, I'm going to just build one shock here and show you how I do it. I'm going to use a shock pump. I'm going to use some 35 shock fluid, factory team. So what I'll do is I'll fill it up about halfway full. Well, that's a little bit more than halfway full. And give it a nice little slow pump. Let it work the air bubbles out that are trapped underneath that piston in there. Okay, and then the shock pump will speed up the process. I would normally do all 4 at once, but just for now I'll do the one. So what that does is creates a vacuum in there, and it's going to suck all the air out of that fluid. So let that sit for a minute. You can visually see that the bubbles are still coming up. So once that's done, we will discontinue the vacuum and bleed the shock. Okay, once you look down and see that that fluid's pretty clear, remove the vacuum. And then I'm also going to take a little bit of green slime and run it around the O-ring. For the shock cap. That'll help keeping it from drying out, which is going to cause you some leaks. So once you get done getting the air out of there by letting them sit or using a shock pump, I'll go ahead and top it off so there's a nice crown on top of their fluid, so we know there's enough oil in there. And these are a bleeder cap style, so you're going to take a 1.5 millimeter wrench, get that screw all the way out of there, and I'll leave it right on the wrench. So my tip on this is not to cross thread it. You want to set that cap on there and turn it counterclockwise until you feel it sit down in there and seat. It's like that, and then you just give it a nice soft, double check it a few times to make sure that that's not cross threading. It's very fine threads on there, so it's very easy to cross thread, and we're dealing with plastic and aluminum. So once that's done, grab yourself a little napkin, and you're going to want to compress the shock shaft all the way down. And what that's going to do is push that excess oil and all the air out of it through that bleeder screw. And as it's still compressed, I'm going to reinstall the screw back into the cap. And you want to just sneak up on it till it's tight. You do not want to over tighten that and strip it out, because you're going to have nothing but problems. Wipe off all the excess fluid. There you go. You got a dead shock. So there's no rebound in that. You reinstall your spring. Install your shock cup, or spring cup, excuse me, and there you go. Oil-filled shock for the rally car.